Am I the a-hole for laughing at my mom and telling her it's not my fault she's broke? My girlfriend's brother owns a small cafe and bakery. It's a relatively new place, but I recommend it to everyone who wants a place to go. Everything there is good quality, and it's very cute. It's worth mentioning that my girlfriend and her brother are very close, and my mom knows this. This past weekend, my mom was in town and decided to visit the cafe with a few of her friends. In the middle of the afternoon while my girlfriend is at work, I got a very distressed, angry phone call from my mom, demanding to speak to my girlfriend. I'm very confused, and I could tell that she was crying, so I tried to calm her down a little before I tried to piece together what happened. Once she's ready, she starts ranting about how terrible the cafe was. She claims that the staff treated her terribly, and how my girlfriend's brother embarrassed her in front of her friends. I ask her to elaborate, and she explains that she didn't bring any money to pay, because she thought it would be free because she is a friend of the owner. And because she didn't have any money, she was forced to ask one of her friends to pay the bill. To be fair, I found this all a little funny and absurd, so I laughed. Looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have done this, as this really aggravated her. She got mad and proceeded to call my girlfriend a terrible person who was never going to be part of the family. I got mad, telling my mom that it's not my fault that she's broke. After that, she hung up. I thought it was fine, but then I found out that my mom left a pretty bad review on the cafe's website, harassed the cafe, and left my girlfriend a string of badly written text messages. I feel bad because I don't want my girlfriend or her brother to suffer because of my actions. Edit. I've apologized to my girlfriend and her brother for my mom's behavior. My girlfriend doesn't blame me, but I still feel terrible. Not today home. But you should really have a talk with your mother about how trash her behavior was, considering no one had ever said she would get a free ride there. Also, I would more likely apologize to your girlfriend and her brother about your mother's behavior. I'd work on getting her to apologize and take the review down. Yeah, no. I have no idea how she thought she would get a meal for several people on the house because she vaguely knows the owner. I don't think I've even got any free drink there. I've already apologized to my girlfriend and her brother. I feel so bad for the both of them. Constant free stuff from small places quickly causes those places to go broke. She was trying to show off and got embarrassed instead. That's a life lesson. I have two friends who have owned restaurants. One friend made it very clear from the beginning that there would be no freebies or discounts for friends. The other gave free stuff and discounts to anyone with the tiniest connection to him. Oh, you're my second cousin's dog groomer's landscaper's wife. So, free apps for the table. Guess which restaurant closed during the pandemic because it was too far into the red? Lol, no. Your mom is an entitled a-hole though for assuming she can just get freebies, then be so offended when told to pay up. What adult leaves the house with nothing? Is it not only no cash but no debit or credit card? Maybe it's just me, but I think I have a $5 on me just to take the trash out, just in case. Also, I'm wondering, did mom think just she could get a free coffee and cupcake? Or was she thinking she could bring herself and friends for a free party? I'm wondering if that was why she was super embarrassed. Like she promised her friends, let's go and all get free goodies. She expected both her and her friends' meals to be free. She also encouraged them to order as much as possible, and she was under the impression that it was on the house, which even if it was, is still a trashy thing to do. So when the check came and she discovered that she had to pay, it was pretty humiliating and embarrassing. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not sharing the role of mom at Mother's Day with my kid's stepmom? I have two kids, ages 11 female and 9 male. Ex and I were young parents, and broke up the day our son was born. He married his wife Kate when our kids were 4 and 2, and it's been a wild ride. When Ex first married Kate, he filed to change our custody plan to 50-50, which wasn't possible before because he worked as a truck driver and was away a lot. He wanted the kids at his house with Kate, even if he wasn't going to be there. The judge rejected it and the custody remained in place for another 2 years, until he left that job so he could have more time with the kids. Then custody went to 50-50. Ex and Kate have always referred to her as Mom Kate, but the kids call her Kate. When custody went to 50-50, Ex asked me to split Mother's Day with them so the kids could celebrate with both moms equally. I said no. I got Mother's Day just like he got Father's Day. It caused some tension, but I had a court order to back me up. There has been tension and drama over how the kids refer to Kate, their relationship with her versus their relationship with me, and how I have never accepted shared mom role with Kate. The truth is, I've always felt like she's secondary to me and my ex. Still an active part of their lives, still has her opinions and requests, but that ex and I are the ones who should be dealing with the nitty-gritty stuff. Then I found out 6 weeks ago that ex has asked the kids twice to ask me to let them go to his house for half of Mother's Day. It came up when my son told me that their dad asked them to tell me we needed to talk about Kate being their mom. He asked me what I wanted them to tell their dad, and I said nothing, that I would talk to dad and they didn't need to. Ex then told me he was surprised they said anything, since they obviously never asked to go there for Mother's Day, and how we always waited for them to say that they hadn't done it either time. I told him not to drag our kids into it, but he told me I was being unfair, that Kate has been around long enough to be seen as their mom too, especially as the mother to their other siblings, how we need to start treating her as such. It got worse when 2 weeks ago my daughter was sick, and she had a school call me instead of Kate. It was Ex's parenting time, and Kate should have been the first call technically, but my daughter asked the school nurse to call me. When I called Ex after taking my daughter home, things blew up because he was pissed my daughter asked that I be called, and also pissed when our daughter didn't want to go with Kate when she arrived to pick her up. They are saying I have poisoned the kids against Kate by not encouraging them to love and treat her the same as me, and because I have refused to give up the role of sole mom and shared a role with the other woman who's also their mother. It has become a very tense dispute because I don't see what I have done is wrong. But I guess what they are saying bothers me enough to wonder. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You're not sharing the role of mom. You are their mom. She's their stepmom. She doesn't have the same parenting rights, same relationship, same anything as you. And she shouldn't. It sounds like your ex wants to replace you with her, and it doesn't work like that. He needs to get over it. And if Kate has biological children, she should understand how fair their treatment of you is. Opie, why don't you start asking for Ex if you can have his and Kate's kids over when you have your kids? That as their sibling's mother, their kids should be calling you mom too. And therefore he/she should get the same custody split as her siblings. Start demanding, vocally, nothing in writing, that their kids have to give you a Mother's Day card too, and share Mother's Day with you. And you should get alone time with their kids to bond and spend time with your family. Like go all out ridiculous and call them selfish. And when they push back, you can be like, but how is this different? If Kate wants to be my kid's mommy, then I should get to be her kid's mommy too. And be like, see how ridiculous this is? Kate is the mother of her kids, and I am the mother of mine. There's value in the roles we play without demanding to take over someone else's rightful place. I suggest you and Kate get therapy, if you're still struggling with enjoying the role of co-parent and step-parent. Not the a-hole. Your ex-husband is trying to force something that is causing the opposite effect. He's going to end up making your kids resent Kate if they don't already. I don't know if Kate is pushing to have a more motherly role in their lives, but it's not her place if she is. My guess is, she wants children of her own and your ex doesn't want any more, so is using your kids to try to satisfy Kate's maternal desire. They have 3 children together, Ex and Kate. But from the interactions we've had, I do feel like she wants to be mom to modded Ex's kids as well. Not the a-hole whatsoever. Your ex and his wife are doing a great job poisoning them against her by forcing it. If you had a new male partner, I doubt that he would be fine being replaced as dad. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she's not allowed back in our house anymore and limiting her contact with our son? My wife and I both work demanding jobs. Sometimes my mom comes over to help with housework and sometimes it's my mother-in-law. Since my mom has some back issues, she can't come around as much as my perfectly healthy mother-in-law. So sometimes most of the work falls on mother-in-law. My wife and I don't mind if none of them help us out with our housework, since we can balance it out on our own, but my mom and mother-in-law insist on helping us. A year ago, my wife gave birth to our son, and since then my wife and I consult a pediatrician to have come up with a perfectly balanced diet for our son. My mother-in-law is not happy about it, and she tries to intervene in how we raise our kid and what we feed him. My wife always tells her to mind her business, but mother-in-law doesn't listen. My mother-in-law and mom take turns watching our son while wife and I are at work. Then a few days ago, my wife had her day off of the week. I went home after work, and my mother-in-law was there fighting with my wife. Basically, she was accusing my wife of being lazy and not a proper housewife for not always cooking and cleaning for me. She was accusing my wife for being a bad mom, but didn't offer any reasons on why she thinks that. I got in between them and reminded my mother-in-law that my wife is not my maid, and that we share the housework since we're both working adults. Mother-in-law told me to stop trying to justify my wife, and that she did a bad job raising her daughter because she's not a properly trained housewife. Then she started attacking me for not demanding my own mom to do more to help us out, and only expecting help from her. I told her we're not expecting help from anyone, and that she was insisting on helping us out. But nobody's forcing her, just like I won't force my own sick mother to do more than she's able to do. She kept yelling and woke up the baby, and then accused us of waking up the kid. I ended up telling her to get out of our house, that she's no longer welcome here if she insults my wife. It will just take our son to her place a couple of times a week to see him. Out of spite, then she admitted she's been feeding our son stuff we don't want him to have in his diet, and that she's doing it behind our back because we are stupid to listen to whatever our pediatrician says. So I told her, fine. She's also not allowed to be alone around our son anymore and will be limiting contact. Several relatives of my wife told us we're being the a-holes, especially me since I'm acting ungrateful towards my mother-in-law, who has always helped us. They say I should apologize to her if I don't want to be called as such. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. While I doubt you will be able to continue to feed your son a perfectly balanced diet, you should definitely be the ones who decide what he eats. Mother-in-law is out of line. Yeah, obviously. Someone feeding your child food against your express wishes is a huge problem, and OP is fully justified. But I've never met a perfectly balanced diet that survived first encounter with a toddler. Lol. Hell, my older kid is actually a pretty adventurous eater, who likes lots of healthy foods, but that doesn't mean she eats them all the time, in a balanced and logical way. I may be wrong, but I think that they have a large list of foods that the baby is allowed to eat, and they're foods that they're allowed to eat. And they mix and match the food so the baby is properly fed and healthy. I think mother-in-law is just giving the baby non-allowed foods, and not giving all of the nutrients/vitamins every meal. Don't they say give them enough rope and they'll hang themselves? She just did. She admitted she's been feeding our son stuff we don't want him to have in his diet. Your mother-in-law has the syndrome of, I raised my children 30 years ago, so I know even better than professionals. Not someone you'd like to keep around your baby. Taking into account that the way kids were raised 30 years ago wasn't truly how it should have been done, and that now we have just started learning how. Not stay home. It's a clear boundary violation, and mother-in-law should apologize for not minding her own business. If she's so adamant that she did a terrible job at raising your wife, then why should you even let her get a chance with your son? And now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for giving my dad an ultimatum? My dad married Jen when I was 10, and Jen had a daughter Lisa who is the same age as me. We did like each other even before Dad and Jen married each other. I found her really offensive. She found me prissy and oversensitive. The latter can be true, admittedly. They got married and wanted us to put aside our differences and treat each other like siblings. The problem was, Lisa hated Jen for leaving her dad. Like, hated her. I'm not sure why she actually continued with 50-50 when she hated her mom so much, even going as far as telling her mom she hoped she would die and get hurt, but she was around every other week until we were 17. My dad and Jen hoped with time things would work out, but I will never ever want Lisa in my life, and the feeling is mutual. I got married a couple of years ago and my dad and I fought over my not inviting Lisa, and now I'm expecting my first child and the discussion has come up again. He keeps bringing it up, but I have told him it won't happen and to stop asking/demanding. We have debated this heatedly. I have told him it's not up for discussion, but he has told me this is family we're talking about. When he said that to me, I told him it's not family. That I actively reject Lisa being my family. That it might hurt him and Jen, but I reject it. I refuse to acknowledge it. I will actively deny it if someone asks or bring it up. They may be married, but it will be over my dead body that I ever treat or acknowledge Lisa as part of my family. He told me that is exactly how Lisa behaves, and that if I feel like she's wrong, I should see how wrong it is for me. I told him it's the one thing I don't care if I'm like her on. She is not and never will be my family, and I will speak that into resistance. I will reject any and all attempt to try and prove she is family, but I don't care about how socially she would be seen that way. He told me he will never stop bringing it up. That especially with the new generation of the family being started, it's important. So I gave him an ultimatum to either drop this subject or risk pushing me away and not being a big part of his grandchild's life. My dad is furious I would issue an ultimatum like that, but I feel like this needs to be nipped in the bud. And I will follow through because he is not going to tell my child Lisa is their aunt and hype up this person and the relationship they could have if I would just allow it. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Well done for setting boundaries. It's your life and you don't owe anyone a part in it if you don't want them there, or they can respect your opinion or wishes / won't recognize your boundaries. Of course, you get to decide who you keep in your life. Even if she were your biological sister, you wouldn't have to keep her in your life if she's someone you dislike this much. Also, your dad and your stepmom need to see that him bring this up constantly is only making it worse. Not today, home. I haven't talked to my blood brother in damn well 15 years. And the family got the same ultimatum. I can cut everyone off just as easy. Very few things we should be selfish about. But if someone being a part of your life makes you miserable, then they shouldn't be a part of your life. It's that simple. If Lisa is so full of hate, how can your father justify bringing that toxicity into your child's life? And if resentment runs that deeply with Lisa, you have every right to ensure the safety and well-being of your child. Take care of yourself. Sounds like the dad's still trying to pretend they're one big happy family. I'm sure that didn't help things in those 7 years they grew up together. Am I the a-hole for telling my half-sister my dad didn't do anything wrong? My parents were married and had me. Then my mom cheated on my dad while I was still a baby and got pregnant with another man's child. My dad filed for divorce and established through the courts that he was not the father of my half-sister and fought not to have parental responsibility of her. My dad did get shared custody of me, and because of shared custody, did not have to pay child support. My half-sister's bio father was unknown, and while mom did try to find him, was unsuccessful. My mom went on to have 4 more kids with 4 different guys. My dad continued to take care of me, but never took them on. When dad knew mom was struggling, he would make sure I was taken care of at her house, since CPS and the courts did not believe things were bad enough for me to live with him primarily. So, I was always better taken care of than my siblings. My half-siblings all hate my dad, and I believe a large part of that is due to mom telling them stuff all through the years. When I was about 13, mom tried to poison me against dad by telling me how dad let them suffer, how he fought to reject my half-sister, how he was often mean to her about them when she would talk to him. But it did not change how I felt about my dad, and when I was 16, I made a decision to go live with him. I just turned 20, and my half-sister is 18. She came after me to argue and to have it out over my dad. She accused me of being a jerk for not being mad at dad. She then went on to tell me a story about mom struggling to afford diapers, and how dad made sure to send diapers that were just my size, instead of money so mom could buy for both of us, and how he even saw her out with us once, and bought stuff that could be just used on me when she was right there. I told her I didn't see what my dad did as wrong, because he was never her dad. She said he could have been, but he rejected her in court. I told her again that to me, dad did nothing wrong. She called me an a-hole, said as her older brother, I should be furious that he would be okay with her and the rest of our siblings going hungry, not having the right care, and that he could have stepped up, but chose not to, which should make me hate him. She said the fact I could look her in the eye and say he did nothing wrong made me just as bad as him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. OP, did he ever do DNA test on you? That might explain part of your mother's strange behavior. Yes, a DNA test was done on me too. Then your half-sister is in for a rude awakening when she gets into the real world. You're actually being a responsible older brother by showing her that nobody's entitled to anything from an unrelated third party, regardless of whether her mother used to be married to said third party. If the courts have not already explained this to your mom and her other kids, they will if they provide the opportunity. Absolutely not the a-hole. Their anger is directed at your dad because they saw him providing for you. He is not obligated to spend a dime on your half-siblings. Where are their dads? That's where their anger needs to be directed to. The half-sister's dad wasn't aware of her existence as the mom had no idea of who he was or where to find him, to notify him he had a kid, let alone get child support. The blame should be on the mom for repeatedly having unprotected fun with deadbeats and strangers. We don't actually know what the fathers of the other children were or weren't told. All we know is what mom said, but if she's trying to get money or sympathy to get money, she could easily lie about it. After all, there's no good way of confirming the veracity of anything she says on this topic. Not the a-hole and your mom is a bad person. Right? So many posts lately where women pop out babies and expect other people to care for them. They should hate their mother. It sounds like she couldn't find any of the other dads. There's a word for that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my sister's recital or games? My 22 female brother, 17 male, was an affair baby. What ended up happening was the following. My dad remarried another woman and gained a stepdaughter, 17, who he treats like his own. My mother married another man and had my half-sisters, 14 female, 13 female. My brother's father is not in his life. As a kid, I spent an equal amount of time with both parents, but my brother was always with mom. From what I know, my brother doesn't call anyone dad. This is something that really affects him. He's always wanted a dad and one of those happy little families. And I recently found his letters to Santa from when he was younger, and I'm absolutely heartbroken. It is something I now feel very strongly about. Because my mom works a lot, no one ever shows up to my brother's games. He doesn't really care, or at least acts like he doesn't. Well, my boyfriend and I decided to go to every one of his games, and have been going to every game since last year. He always gets really happy. He even jokingly calls us his parents as we sit with all the other parents. This is something I only do for him. My brother had his final volleyball game near the end of October, and like always, I was going. However, as I was about to leave, my mom said she needed to talk. 10 minutes later, my dad shows up. They usually cannot stand each other, so I thought it was something serious. They just told me that it's nice that I go to all my brother's games, but my sisters on both sides feel left out, and I should make an effort to go to their things too. My 17-year-old stepsister had some dance rehearsal on the same day, and they wanted me to go to that instead, to prove that I'm not playing favorites. They also said that they want my boyfriend to go as well. I said no. They kept begging though, and my mom told me that my other sisters had something coming up as well. I said no. Unless it's a major game or recital, I won't attend. I'm already very busy. I'd only do this for my brother because, unlike my sisters, he has no one. My parents said that was unfair to the girls, because they deserve to have an older sister. They both also agreed that it's weird my boyfriend and I act like his parents. I just told them that sucks, but I have a game to get to. They're both still mad at me. I haven't been allowed in either house since that day, until I promised to commit to the girls as well, but I keep refusing. My mom's called me mean, selfish, etc., and my dad keeps saying that he never expected this from me. I don't know. Am I the a-hole for refusing to do the same for my sisters? I just want my brother to have one thing as he never gets anything. But maybe I'm the a-hole for doing this at the expense of my sisters. Not the a-hole. I'm just curious. Did you point out that you wouldn't have to if either of them could commit to being there? The blind spot they have here doesn't make much sense. No one is coming to brothers' things. That's why you were going. If they showed up, you wouldn't have to. This convo should become one of the now 3 of you adults doing what's best for the 4 still children. And you aren't being mean or selfish. You are being a great sister/adult by willing to help out. It's not weird you and your boyfriend act as parents. It's weird that brothers' parents aren't yet see the value in being present. Yes, I stated very clearly that the main reason I attend is because my brother has no one going to his games, while my 17-year-old sister's mom always goes to her dance stuff, and my other sister's dad is super involved in their sports. They just replied with, well, it's unfair to your sisters. What a weird blind spot. It's not unfair to anyone, unless they are intentionally not making efforts for your brother, which would be an incredible a-hole move. You are doing a good thing in seeing a presence gap and filling it. And frankly, your parents should applaud you. The only ask they should do is take a bunch of pictures and do a group chat and pass on our pride to brother, so he knows parents are just dealing with circumstances. To ask you to just take on sister's stuff kinda implies they could be there for brother and just chose not to, which is just disgusting. Not the a-hole. You are being an amazing big sister. Furthermore, it sounds like there isn't a bad blood between you and your sisters anyways. Clearly, he needs this more than they ever could. Furthermore, how awful of them to say it's weird you and your boyfriend acts like his parents. Maybe if his real mother acted like a parent to him, you wouldn't have to. Thanks. There's no bad blood. But I feel like we're all aware that my brother will always come first no matter what. I feel that does cause a bit of friction occasionally, but that's just how it is. I know that might be an a-hole thing to say, but I can't bring myself to feel bad. No one ever felt bad for my brother. And tell me about it. While the way my dad talks to and about my brother upsets me, it is not the same as my mom borderline neglecting him. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my parents about the award and that I won? My 20 female sister, 18 female, when she was 12 years old, was diagnosed with cancer. Because of this, my parents became almost completely absent from my life, as my sister spent a lot of time in the hospital or undergoing chemotherapy. So 70% of the time I was alone or just being ignored. My sister was cured of cancer at 15, and things are back to normal. My parents, always absent in my life for everything not just school, interfered with our relationship. In those 3 years, they never knew my grade, any game I played, anything related to me. If I showed up with blue hair, they wouldn't notice at a time, and I tried so hard to get their attention for 5 minutes, but eventually just gave up. It's okay. They were focused on my sister and I get it. But yeah, I created a life independent of them. My parents even try to get closer and we have a closer relationship, but it was never really the same. I don't have a close relationship with my sister because we don't get along so well. But even so, they never expressed an explicit interest in what I do. I managed to get into college. Currently, I still live with them, but I intend to move by July next year. I pay rent and for my share on the bill, groceries, etc. Recently, my scientific work in college competed for an award at the state level, and I was super happy. The award did not take place in person and it was by Zoom, and I ended up winning on Wednesday. On Friday, me, my boyfriend, and friends went to celebrate for dinner. My boyfriend and friend posted things congratulating me. On Saturday, before I went to work, my parents came to talk to me, asking about the award and if I had really won. When I confirmed it, they started asking how I didn't invite them to see the award, and how could I hide something so good? I just replied that I didn't think they would mind honestly. They started complaining, but I said I had to work. Later, my sister texted me saying that I broke our parents' heart by saying that, and that I was really punishing them for something in the past that they couldn't help themselves. My parents are distant from me and my sister is still calling me an a-hole. They never really showed interest in my stuff or ask anything even after, which doesn't happen with my sister. But am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This might be a wake-up call for your parents that they needed. Truth can be harsh sometimes. The parents didn't react to anything Opie did for 3 years, like blue hair, which is not to say they didn't care. It sounds like the parents were more upset that Opie didn't make a big production out of getting the award, giving them nothing to underreact to. They do a great job of making everything all about them. That's a very simple concept that bad parents don't seem to get. The relationship is always on a parent's shoulders. You are the child. If the parents wanted a better relationship with you, they should have been, and should still be, actively attempting to mend that relationship. It's not on you. It's easy for your sister to blame you when she gets all their attention. It isn't your fault though, not the a-hole. I'm sorry your parents are so bad at being parents. They have been and are trying to fix it. Opie's bitter and shutting them out because she wants them to hurt like she did. That may be understandable, but it is also an a-hole move. Opie says they don't show an explicit interest in her studies or what she's doing. So it sounds like the refreshed relationship is on their terms as daughter, without considering she's an adult with interests of her own. I doubt they were even on her radar when sharing the news. If not interested in the day-to-day stuff, why be in the award unless to get some reflective glory? That doesn't make you bitter, just realistic. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. They've normalized this reaction you have. You can't be held accountable now when they've changed their outlook on life. Maybe with time you can become closer if you want. But don't worry about that and enjoy the thrill of the win. Congratulations. And your sister is the a-hole here for sticking her beak in. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my youngest brother the truth about everything? I, 24, have a 26-year-old sister and a 23-year-old brother we'll call Jake. I also have a 12-year-old brother we'll call Ryan. And he's the reason for this conflict. When Jake was a kid, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but doctors didn't think he would make it to 12. Jake wasn't just the baby of the family, but also the only boy. Our parents really wanted a boy and always said it was a good thing Jake was a boy, because they didn't want to have a fourth kid. You see where this is going. Ryan was born when Jake was at the sickest. and Jake knew Ryan was supposed to be his replacement. Now Jake has been in remission for a decade, and he has always hated Ryan. Our parents also don't dote on Ryan like they did/do Jake, and it's obvious to me that they regret having him. They are perfectly adequate parents to Ryan when Jake isn't around, but when he is, they ignore him so Jake doesn't get upset. On Thanksgiving, Jake said he was thankful for his parents and sisters. Ryan was upset that he wasn't counted, and our parents ended up telling him off and sending him to his room. Ryan has been miserable ever since. He keeps asking me why Jake hates him, and I decided he needed to know the truth, so he knew it wasn't anything he did. He was sad after I told him, but he thanks me for being honest. Last night, Ryan confronted our parents, and they are furious with me. They demanded that I call Ryan and tell him what I said was a mean prank. They said I had no right to tell anyone their business or make up horrible conclusions. But I didn't make it up. I know the truth. Am I the a-hole for telling it to Ryan? Not the a-hole. Your brother deserves to know what happened in the family before he was born. You just behaved like a big sister. Besides, it's better that he knows it's not his fault or anything that he did. That can lead to a lot of unnecessary self-hatred that he absolutely doesn't deserve. Also, your parents could really use some therapy. They don't seem aware of what they're doing and how badly it can affect Ryan. Or they know and they miserably dismiss it. Either way, not good. It sounds like the parents should send Jake to therapy too. And I'm not inclined to give him a pass for incorrectly blaming his brother for his parents' actions, even if he is in remission. It wasn't Ryan's choice to be born. It was their parents' decision to replace their son when their sick son was still alive. It's like they're not even pretending to treat their children as individuals, or anything more than a reflection of themselves. Regardless of the permutation, there are a lot of a-holes in this situation, but Opie is definitely not one of them. Think about it. Jake was 11 when their parents decided to do the deed and pop out another child. Opie mentioned that he was the sickest at that point, not to mention a newborn cries at late nights. Parents were caring for Ryan when Jake was potentially dying. Jake would see Ryan as replacement as a child. Probably he felt that when he dies, no one will even miss him as Ryan is here. Jake seriously needs therapy, and the parents don't deserve to have kids. I don't think after a few Thanksgiving they're going to have dinner together anymore. I definitely agree. Jake is going to regret it when he grows up, or when Ryan goes no contact with his family. One thing for sure, they're going to have an end of the family Thanksgiving dinners. Or if it happens, it's sure as hell going to be end in chaos. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for making my mom feel like a bad mom and telling her off for leaving? I, female 18, have two little sisters, 15 and 16. My mom had an affair when I was 14, which caused my parents' divorce, and she later remarried her husband. He has a hell of a lot of kids, 7, 8, 10, 12, and 13. My mom never even gave us a chance to get to know them or anything. We were just forced to move into a bigger house and call them family. I still live with my mom. Due to my dad in and out of the hospital, I was never able to live with him. Now, we can't even visit him because he's high risk and could easily catch COVID, so we're still figuring out how we can see him without risking his health. My mom pulled a stunt last Monday. She left with her husband for a week to have them time. She didn't say anything to me or any of the other kids until I called her asking where she was. She didn't even leave any money for us to shop for food. Yes, she left during a freaking pandemic. She returned literally an hour ago, 12 a.m., and I blew up at her because I missed work all week and might get fired. I missed practice and risked getting kicked off the team. And the 3 oldest kids, not my bio sisters, were so horribly behaved the entire week. I told her they're not my responsibility for one, and she knows I'm not comfortable babysitting anyone's kids except my sisters. I told her the next time she and her husband wanted them time to lock themselves in their room rather than leaving and being inconsiderate. She started crying and said I'm making her feel like a bad mom when she didn't do anything wrong. My aunt called me and said I'm grown and need to get over my little girl feelings and apologize to my mom because I was mean for no reason. I said I had a reason to be mean and I wasn't apologizing. I'm only now writing this because I feel like maybe I was over the top and a-hole-ish. So, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mother was incredibly responsible. You have no obligation to tend to your younger siblings or the stepkids. Those children are her and her husband's responsibility. By leaving them like that, she was certainly behaving like a bad mom. Honestly, you would have been within your rights to call social services and report abandoned children, because that is what she did. She just walked away from a bunch of minor children without making any sort of arrangements for their care. She didn't even leave food for them. That is a failure for her most basic duty as a mother. You are your own person. You're not an extension of her. You don't have to fill in for her whenever she feels like abdicating mother duties. Honestly, you would have been within your rights to call social services and report abandoned children. Absolutely. If she does it again, call CPS. At the very least, she needs to tell the person babysitting that they're babysitting. And make sure the kids have food. Grapes. This is the most horrifying and irresponsible thing I've ever read. I'm so mad on behalf of the OP. OP, you are not the a-hole in any way. Is your mother insane? Not the a-hole. This was literally child abandonment. You may be 18, but you can't take care of 7 minors on your own. If she pulls a stunt like this again, you should call CPS. Absolutely this. I work in a related field and can confirm most states would take action to this behavior. OP, you're more of an adult than your mom is, and definitely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You're still in school and being made to babysit 7 children, and she has the audacity to say you were mean for being upset at her? Being in trouble for work isn't a little girl problem either. WTF. Edit. I didn't think this called for CPS, and I'm hoping she doesn't do it again so I don't have to call them. Plus, I think they tell who makes a report, and I don't want to go through that. I am saving to move out, but I'm back some money because I had to come out of pocket to order food the first few days, then buy groceries. I also don't want to leave my sisters until at least my baby sister is 17. My cousin, Aunt's daughter, has joined in and called me a child. She's 20, and a bad daughter for making my mom feel bad about having fun. My step-sibling's bio mom is an addict. I don't know any of her info anyways to get in contact with her. Edit 2. So, I told my mom the funds I spent the week she was gone, and she's going to pay me back for that. My boss texted me not to come into work, and I think that translates to I'm fired. So, someone asked why I missed work when my sisters could have watched them. Well, the 7, 8, and 10 years old have online school and needs help with the class setup and doing work, and my sisters have to go to their classes too. I see someone suggest I get custody of my sisters and live with my dad after isolation. I like that idea, and I'll have to talk to him about that. I will think about the CPS issue. The whole thing is just terrifying. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I'm not giving her any baby updates? I'm 32 weeks pregnant with my second baby. Last scan was diagnosed with a defect showing left lung isn't growing well. Heart's not in the right spot and will require intubation and ventilation at birth and surgery shortly after. This means NICU time as well. We told our parents when we found out. My in-laws offered support and asked if we were going to make this news public. I said I'm waiting for follow-up tests to see how severe the prognosis is. I'm a very private person and hate putting my life out there to elicit sympathy. They asked if they could tell any of their friends if they ask how the pregnancy's going. They have a very tight-knit group who raised families together, and it isn't uncommon to share this type of news with each other. I told my mother-in-law that I don't mind if she discusses it with some of her closer friends because they've been indirectly involved in our life through her. Many brought meals when my first was born and checked on me when I was going through postnatal depression and anxiety. 2 days after the diagnosis, I got messages out of the blue from my family, who I haven't spoken to in years. The extent of our relationship is the occasional reaction to a post in social media, but never messages or questions about my life. Some of the messages were straight up to the point, "Your mom said something was wrong with your baby?" With questions that I don't have answers to, but others were like, "It's been a while. How are you?" Since I don't have that type of relationship with them, I kept it to small talk. I called mom and blew up at her. Said she didn't have the right to share my news, that I'd said that since I don't have all the answers, I don't want to be hounded with questions. I've been trying to avoid Dr. Google essays to avoid a million different scenarios. I didn't think I needed to ask to keep this to herself because it's personal in nature. She said, "I just sent out a message asking for prayer. So-and-so's a nurse said you need to go see X specialist for another opinion. You're being extremely selfish and ungrateful towards people who want to support you." Then ended with, "F it. Since you can't appreciate support and don't value a lifeline, just let me know when your baby's born. I don't want to hear anything else. I said that worked for me. Now I'm getting calls from family saying that I've really upset her, that I should let her know how things are going because she's really stressed out about her granddaughter. Part of me thinks I may have overreacted, and my husband said that I was so different to his parents than I was to her, but I genuinely appreciated that his parents asked permission about how much they were allowed to disclose, whereas my mom instantly made it all about her pain and worry. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's really unfortunate that you and your baby are going through this. It's not fair your mother broke your boundaries and is allowing her family to guilt trip you. You're freaking pregnant. The last thing any pregnant person needs is stress and turmoil, let alone someone with a difficult pregnancy. If they can't respect boundaries, they get put on a tighter leash. If mom is worried about her granddaughter, she can support her by not being an a-hole and stressing you out. She said it herself. Only tell her when baby is born, so if that's what she wants, it's her own fault. Stay strong for the baby. I hope you both have a safe pregnancy. My husband said that I was so different to his parents than I was to her. Something tells me there's more to this if her husband brings this up. There's two sides to every story. Am I the a-hole? No. But, as a fellow expecting mother in a current and high-risk pregnancy, let me tell you that this isn't really, or rather ought not to be, about you being angry with your mom and annoyed with your previously distanced family for now showing up with a million questions and unsolicited advice. Don't get me wrong, that stuff is all truly agitating. But it's not what you should be focused on. Focus on yourself and the life you are carrying. Do what works for you. Stay away from social media. Don't answer the phone or texts if you don't want to talk. Be selfish. You have the right and the obligation to be selfish right now. If you are happy with your team of treating physicians, stay the course and put your trust in them. If you have doubts, seek out referrals from known and trusted sources and feel empowered to make whatever changes to your medical team you need to in order to feel the most comforted during this time of uncertainty and distress. Not the a-hole, but also don't worry about it. Worry about taking care of you and yours. I'm sending you strength and support. Just let me know when your baby is born. I don't want to hear anything else. If she didn't mean it, she shouldn't have said it. All you did was agree with her. Not the a-hole. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that my niece and nephew weren't the first things on my mind when shopping for home decor? Okay, so I finally got to move back into my apartment and properly furnish it and decorate it. I had a damn good time buying a bunch of stuff, especially plants. I spent all weekend decorating my apartment and liked the outcome of it. I posted pictures on social media of my favorite rooms, living room and my bedroom. In the living room, I have plants up, a rather large bookshelf, and on the lower shelves are my trophies. You know, not baby-friendly. My apartment isn't baby-proofed at all, and won't be until I decide I want a baby. My brother called me and asked to see my apartment, so I showed him all of it. He seemed hesitant about something, so I asked what the problem was, and he said, "It's nice, but that's not exactly child-friendly." I was confused and asked him to elaborate. He says, well, what if niece and nephew spends the weekend over? They'll ruin everything because they have easy access to it. Instantly, I got annoyed. Like, I understand his point, but my thought process wasn't, maybe I shouldn't get this because niece can get into it easily. It was me buying things I want because I liked it. So I told him that, I said, niece and nephew weren't the first things I thought about while shopping, and he hung up on me. My sister-in-law messaged me a super passive-aggressive text and ended it with, "Glad to know you care about your niece and nephew's well-being." I've been sitting on this since yesterday because initially I felt I was in the right, but I sort of feel like the a-hole for what I told him. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I feel bad not replying to everyone, but the most asked is if I watched them on weekends before I moved. Yes and no. I watched them when they visited my mom and I still live at home. Other than that, I didn't. And I never told them I'd watch the kids when I moved. And my niece is 5 and nephew is 3. Not the a-hole. When I was a kid and I wanted to spend a weekend with my grandparents, they traded houses with my parents because our home was kid-friendly and theirs were not. Sounds like they wanted to impose rather than have you spend quality time with them. Man, this is genius. Not at a-hole. Sounds like your brother and his wife are either annoyed that you're not an option for free babysitting, or that how dare you not think your niece and nephew are the most important things on the planet. The fact he went instantly talking about them staying with you shows it's likely the former. I definitely got the "could the kids stay with you this weekend while we do grown-up stuff" vibe from this, yes. Not at a-hole. What a ridiculous attitude for them to take. Do they expect a single adult to have baby bumpers and covered outlets on the occasional chance that their cherubs graze the place? Edited to add, single as in childless, not commenting on your social life. Yeah, the baby-proofed tools all around, and they expect me to have baby toys around for their entertainment when they come over. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister I won't move across the country with her or take care of my nephew anymore? A little backstory. I'm female 26. When I was 16, my mom moved her and myself across the world, UK to US, to be with my sister as she was going through IVF. I lost all my friends and drifted apart from family. I'm 26 now and finally really happy living here. I love my nephew. He's my best friend. I was technically his nanny for about a year and we are super close. Usually if I'm not working, I'm with him. Camping trips, theme park trips, adventures together. If my nephew wasn't part of the equation, I probably wouldn't even speak to my sister. Now she's decided they want to leave the state we live in and move to the other side of the country. And she expects us all to go. She's been asking me for almost 2 weeks. She's had my mom asking me, but I don't want to. I'm an adult and I will not have my life thrown into absolute chaos for her again. So I told her this as she was badgering me to move with them. She called me a dramatic witch and said I'm being completely unreasonable and it would be nice to have a change. I told her no, and if she's really planning on moving and taking my nephew, then she cannot rely on me for childcare anymore because it's going to break both mine and my nephew's hearts when we are separated and not 15 minutes away from each other. Now I'm the family villain and barely anybody's speaking to me because I'm so dramatic and rude. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. Your sister wants to move and expects you to move as well so you can provide childcare? Is she nuts? You don't have to disrupt your life just so her life is easier. Why on earth is your family calling you dramatic? I take it your sister is the favorite child? Well, the mom moved the family to another country for her, so I think it's safe to say she's definitely the golden child. Not the a-hole. It's your life. You're not a child anymore. Your mom and sister have no right to uproot you. They don't even say why they want to move, so I'm guessing it's not a good one like a fantastic job opportunity. I know you'll be heartbroken to be parted from your little buddy, but it seems that the only reason they want you to move is to continue the free childcare. Be free, OP. Live life on your terms. Not at a-hole. No wonder you say you would have nothing to do with your sister if it weren't for your nephew.